This is Canvas in NodeJS. My name's John Schulz. I'm not going to be able to show you this like this. Wow. And that's going to go. Okay. So I'm currently working at Include, which is a web consultant company in DC. Before that, I was at OmniTI, also a web consultant company. And I did work at Zirconis, which is a really nice monitoring service where I did a lot of the work with the charts. And I'm on Twitter at JFSIII. So why would you want to use Canvas on Node? And the idea is to replace script, source path to your lib, and then creating it with the script, or an iframe with image source equals, and just get your Canvas image back. Everything is croaking. Okay. So we made some Canvas-based charts for somebody, and they really liked them. They liked them so much they wanted those charts to be in their wiki. The problem is that Canvas-based charts need a browser or a document. Iframe's a good way to do that, but wikis don't allow iframes. So I really wanted to figure out a way to do this because it seemed like it was a really valid use case. It was just not possible. So I did a little research, and there is something called Rhino Canvas, which is kind of what it sounds like. The main problem with that is 2006 is the last time any work was done on it, and I just wanted to stay in Node and work on V8. So I asked Twitter for help, and I got a bunch of "what are you talking about" back. I understand it's a visual thing, and I'm talking about doing it on the server. But if you think about it, there's really nothing inherently browser-specific about Canvas or about this geometry that we're dealing with. It's just keeping track of go to this position, then make a move, and then once you, make a circle and fill it. That's all just math. I don't need to worry about where the mouse is or what the window viewport is. So it definitely seemed possible. One of my former coworkers mentioned that I should look at Cairo, which does PDF generation, SVG, a bunch of other stuff. My only problem with that is it's in C, and I would have to go through and mimic or make a mirror of the shell of the Canvas API in C, which is a problem for me. But then TJ Holowalchuk and LearnBoost released Node Canvas. And what Node Canvas is it gives you, so it is Canvas in Node.js. And it gives you a standard Canvas element, so an API, so you get move to, begin path, stroke, all the things you expect. And then it gives you some non-standard methods like create PNG stream, toBuffer, which is actually used to create binary information to get an image back, and toData URL. So here's an example from that page. And if you notice, I put a comment in there, but the first two lines are the only thing that's any different from a regular Canvas program. We do a require to get the package, and then instead of saying Canvas equals document create element Canvas, Canvas.height equals something, Canvas.width equals something, you just create it with new Canvas, pass it the height and width. So then if you were to paste that in, or run that, save JS, whoops. That'll give me a data URI, kick back an image that's got this data string in it. And that's it. So that's text. So that got me pretty far. So that means that I can now run Canvas on the server. My problem with that was that I already had a client-side library that I was using. It was Flot. And Flot uses jQuery, and jQuery uses the DOM, and there was no DOM on the server. So technically I could do it. I had the tools, but I didn't get a lot of the benefits that I was looking for, and I didn't want to recreate Flot on the server side. I just wanted to move it over and have these charts that looked all the same there. Like I said, the customer liked them. I wanted to keep them that way. So I had to find a way to get jQuery to work on Node, and that is done by the incredible jsdom. They find a way to do a common JS implementation of the DOM in Node. They give you DOM level 1 and DOM level 2 just came in February, I think, the latest version, 02. and you get element by class name, get element by ID, a lot of the BOM stuff you need. So I now had a fake DOM, and that means I can now run jQuery. So here's an example actually from the JSDom site. The new version implements this thing called env, where in this case, they're going to scrape a page. So you would say env destination URL. That array is a list of scripts you want to include. So I made a point to notice that that's a production jQuery file that's not patched or hacked in any way. Then you get a callback when you've got that window, and then in this case it runs window.dollar. So it's taking jQuery and running it against that URL. Now, that screen scraping is not quite what I was looking to do, but you get the idea. I mean, he's immediately able to use jQuery on some remote code. So I did a little bit of patching in Flot, but it's really minimal. Because Node Canvas gives you an API compatible, it is API compatible with Canvas, I really just had to go into Node and Flot and find where they did the creation. So they used to create element. I now just do a test and say, if you've got this new incredible constructor, use that. Otherwise, use the regular one. And that's really it. I changed some detection at the bottom where their detection used to be if getContacts is available, or if it's not available, then do xcanvas. Well, because Node Canvas, again, is API compatible, that is now going to be there. So I just changed that to, if you have the excanvas hack, use it. All right. Yeah, I do have the full patch available as a GIST if anybody's looking to patch Flop. So putting it all together, here is an example that I use in JS Node. And this is using the new version of JSDom. So you do require, give it an env, where I pass in, again, production jQuery code. The two scripts that are there, one of them, that flot.svn, is my patched version of Flot. Flot.text is just a plugin for Flot. By default, Flot renders labels in absolutely positioned divs, and they're not part of the canvas. So when I go to export it, you'd have lines and areas, but you wouldn't have values associated with them. So you need to have a plugin for Flot to do that. And that's just what this is. Done is the callback. This is just data generation. I'd have to do this for any example. Same in the client side. The things that are of note at all. Width and height, that is something that's different about this version. Flot, by default, takes an element and then it determines its dimensions, which I don't have those dimensions when I'm running on the server. Even if I did inline styles, I couldn't get jQuery to detect a height and width. So I had to say, here's a specific height and width. Now, people have been asking for that in Flot for the reason that you might have a div that's off screen and you want to pre-render it and just show it. So if it's off screen, it would get a 0 and not show up anyway. So technically, I needed to add it for this project, but it's something that isn't going to be in the next version of Flot. X-axis and Y-axis are normal arguments. Canvas text is something we use for the plugin. And then clickable false and hoverable false are, again, Flot arguments. I just set them to false because it's a static image. There's no need to apply that. Then the rest of this is me just doing some aliasing. I didn't want to say window dollar or window jQuery, so I just set those up. And then div equals div. And this signature right here is exactly what you would see out of the plot docs. Plot, div, or placeholder, data in an options array. Then I get a canvas back. Again, this is a getCanvas is a Flot method. Normally it would give you a DOM instance back. In this case, I'm getting the Node Canvas instance back, so I can do something with it. I set up where I want to save this image, and then so I create a write stream, create a stream on data, write to that. So I think I've got that open. Find Node, JSDom, JS. That's right, and I also logged some stuff out in there. JSNO Flot, JSDom ping, sweet update. If you were to, and that, let me show you, I mean, that really is just an image. But that is, if anybody's worked with Flot, I mean, that's Flot. That is a styled Flot image or canvas. All right, so I actually was real stoked to score jsno.de. So my initials are JS, and this is where I play with Node and have fun with JavaScript. JSNode/Flot will always give back a random, but a very, a narrow set of items, but you should always be able to do image source equals JS node / float, and you'll get the canvas image. Just a way for me to test it and put multiples up and make a list or whatever. I also did a little bit of work so that it'll accept parameters via the query string. So you can give it a JSON object or just the data or options. Example that being that and all right. Misspell. So, and that is updated right there. And again, I mean, that is just an image. So we're able to use float on the server side and get a nicely styled canvas chart back. One thing I do want to point out, in the previous example here, or whatever gist I had, where I was showing JSDom env, I was creating a DOM every time. What I actually do on JS Node is, at start, I preload float. So it's real basic stuff. I just do a basic script injection, but I pull those in so it does it one time, and then I just share that document instance. I don't feel like I shouldn't be creating a new JSDom window or document every time I serve an image. I just wanted to point that out. All right, wrapping up some advantages I see. I think the biggest thing is image works everywhere. Whether it's, we're talking mobile. I said iframes aren't available, on a wiki. An image has been around for a long, long time, and it's got incredible support. It's about as good as you're going to get. Code reuse, you take the library you've already have that you're using on the client side, can move to the server side. You will have to do some patching, but again, the work that TJ's done, that Canvas API it's exactly the same. So all you have to do, most likely, is change the way that instance is created and then hand it off, and it should be good from there. Performance. Image is much less burdensome on any device. Again, older browser, mobile. I'm not giving it information, having it create it, render it, spit it out. It's just an image. So you might not have that horsepower on an older browser or mobile. Privacy is another one. We had a case at the monitoring service where a person wanted to show a graph, and they wanted to show relative changes, but they didn't want to show the absolute numbers, whether it was membership, CPU burden, whatever. So if you do the regular way you deal with it, you give JSON back, and while I could do a graph that didn't have labels on it, that data still got transferred across the wire. You look at the net request, you'll see it, and maybe it's obfuscated or something, but it's still coming across the wire. With this, you control what you want to return and just kick that image back, and it's completely opaque. So there's no way that anybody would be able to know what those values actually were. Also, by having that URL, you now get a nice normal HTTP asset, and you can cache it as you see fit. Say you have something like sales figures or something that are static or aren't going to change. You could do something like, if I'm given a start and an end, and they're both in the past, set a far futures expires header on it. Cache it for a year, 10 years, whatever your site does. So that way, the client doesn't have to do another request. They don't have to redraw it. They just pull from cache, and you on the server aren't redrawing that or reserving it. Text, I was going to say that Canvas text the Canvas text methods aren't supported in all browsers, but it's kind of a narrow thing. I think one of the bigger ones is that you get the benefit of having a single platform that you're supporting here, and you can use a font if it's available on your server. You know it's available because you're controlling that environment. Disadvantages, I think probably the biggest one is you're bringing load from the client back to the server. Now, I talked about ways you can hedge that with caching and so on, and there's other reasons why you might want to, but you are pulling from the spokes back into the hub. Image means there's no interaction. That's the other key one. You can't do on mouse over, can't do tooltips, that sort of stuff. It is a static image, but in the cases where that's where there's a lot of times where that's perfectly suitable. And it's another piece of technology in your infrastructure. Although you likely have something that's serving images anyway, and it's not as though you need to have your entire stack or anything running in Node. You just go to a certain port or a certain URL, which you mod rewrite or otherwise direct to your Node instance, which kicks that image back. But it is something you'd have to add in if you're not already running Node. I said, I don't think I've got anything else. That's it.